Assassin's Creed has introduced us to more than a dozen of protagonists. From the charming Ezio who blueballed his arch-nemesis sister to a demigod mercenary who journeyed through Greece to organize a family dinner. And in a perfect world, the Assassin's Creed franchise would have given us a plethora of unique stealth characters with distinct gimmicks and memorable tricks. However, that wasn't the case. Instead, we just got a ninja who has a grappling hook and a tank of a samurai. So as someone who likes stealth in video games and sneaky characters, I do have a wish list of stealth classes or character types that I want to see in the franchise. Now before anything else, please note that the names of these classes that I'm talking about are inspired by Dungeons & Dragons and other RPGs. Though they are not an exact copy since I know definitions can be a bit blurry sometimes or some nerd will try to correct me. So anyway, let's start. First is the Alchemist class. This is a top favorite of mine just because of the adaptability this class can offer. For this, think of a witcher who brews potions and other chemical decoctions. But instead of fighting monsters, you are sneaking through castles and camps. I imagine a system like in Revelations where you gather ingredients from the world and have stations all around the map where you can brew your potions. The potions you create vary greatly. A cool one I can think of is a potion that makes your vision slow down, letting you move and react quicker, which can be useful both for stealth and during tight situations. Obviously, brewing poisons is a must-have, so creating ones that can make enemies hallucinate or temporarily blind would be great. Then depending on the overall gameplay, absurd effects like night vision and elemental damage bombs may also work. Basically, he or she will have a large arsenal of utility that can aid in both stealth and combat. For the character's personality, I think a mad scientist type who sees their enemies as lab rats would be pretty cool. Like every mission becomes an experiment to see how each potion works. I can even see other assassins arguing with him about his experiments, but then he'll counter by saying that he's exercising his freedom and that everything is permitted. Gameplay wise, I think a setting with a beautiful open world would fit this, similar to what we've seen from Valhalla and Odyssey, since those places are perfect for alchemical ingredients to grow and thrive. More so, ingredient gathering could make exploration much more immersive, since every flower, bugs, and animals you see can be potential material sources. Since you'll be drinking a lot of potions, having a toxicity meter like in Witcher is also a must. This would prevent spamming potions and add some risk when drinking powerful ones. Having certain buffs when your toxicity is high, like maybe increased raw power or agility, is also a welcome idea.
Young Cesare, I heard him say, could not be killed by man. So I tossed him through the air to see where he might land.
Now let's talk about a bard class. A high charisma, well-spoken character who relies heavily on his wit and charm to get close to his targets and deliver the lethal strike. Now, some may say that we already have a bard character, which would be Ezio. And I get that. Ezio is highly charismatic, and there's even that one sequence in Revelations where he disguised himself as a bard. However, Ezio is too much of a brute to be called a bard, if I'm being honest. I mean, if you put Ezio in a room with a bunch of Templars, you would expect him to beat the living poo out of them. He won't even try to talk and de-escalate the situation. And for a bard character, trying to talk their way out of tight spots should be a core element of their personality. They should not feel like a one-man army, and instead someone who would rather trick enemies. For their main skill or ability, something that will define their gameplay, I'm thinking of a powerful disguise ability that's similar to Liberation's persona system. The disguises will be something that greatly affect the character's gameplay during the open world and in black box missions, like how guards will react to him and which tools are available to him. Being able to befriend certain NPCs and use them as distractions should also be in the character's repertoire. Just imagine the kidnap mechanic from Syndicate, but instead of taking a guard hostage, you offer an NPC wine or gold, and you walk with them throughout a mission section. Then once the inevitable thing of being spotted happens, the all-reliable smoke bomb can be a useful tool. But keeping with the charming element of the character, having other NPCs disrupt guards would be fitting. Something like those NPCs from AC1 and the Revolutionists in Unity. Level design wise, missions for a game with a bard protagonist should be something like in Hitman. Basically levels that are set in social events and gatherings where social stealth can be fully realized. Next is a monk-inspired class. This is one of my top most wanted stealth classes in Assassin's Creed. Now, I know that a monk may seem like a contradiction to an assassin, but when I say monk, I'm not referring to the peaceful, loving kind, but to just the less violent type of warrior. Someone who may prefer to only kill their targets and spare goons or the guards that the villain hires. Basically, someone who will ghost levels. The main reason why I want to see this type of character in AC is simply because of the philosophical conflict that it will introduce. Just imagine the friction between this monk character who goes out of his way to not kill common guards and other assassins who thinks that not killing makes him weak and a flight risk. I can even imagine a scene where the monk is training hard and then a spiteful assassin would approach him and then ask him why he is training too hard when he's not even killing. Then he'll answer that not killing takes more skill than just sneaking up behind someone and slicing their throat. For his main skill and ability, I think a multi-use staff would definitely work. Imagine the bow staff from AC Shadows, but instead of killing enemies, it only knocks them out. Aside from its non-lethal combat capability, it should also be useful for traversal and stealth. Imagine puzzles that require using the staff to move objects or pry doors open. Or maybe even using it as a pole to make bigger jumps like those things in Mirage. For his other tools, cool non-lethal bombs and crowd control gadgets are perfect. Think of stink and fear bombs that can stun enemies and even cause them to run in fear. Perhaps some sort of mud or glue trap that you can place on the ground or walls. They then are activated when an enemy trips on a wire or something, which will drastically slow them down. One thing I wanna note though is the setting for this type of class. It may be difficult to properly set up a character like this in times of an all-out war without making him feel cartoony or holier than thou. I mean, imagine a monk-type character during Valhalla where everyone has a kill-on-sight mentality, and both sides are just burning the hell out of everything. Like, it could work, depending on the writing, but it wouldn't feel right. So instead, a setting that is closer to the modern day, where wars are mostly fought behind the scenes, is best, since it further adds to securing the secrecy of the Brotherhood by reducing casualties. Probably something like in the late 1850s onwards, so that a non-lethal playstyle can fit comfortably. The next class I wanna see in AC is the Druid class. For some, the Druid class is just a nature-loving ranger with a bow and some grass abilities. But when I say Druid, I'm actually thinking more of a beast tamer kind of class. If you've played Origins or Odyssey, there is an ability that allows Bayek or Cassandra to tame wild animals. Now imagine a character whose whole shtick is to tame wild animals and use them for stealth. You could have a pet viper who can terrify and poison guards, a loyal hound who can sniff out enemies and find valuable loot, and perhaps a massive bear that can plow through an entire camp and tank arrows. Now, I know that the Druid class may seem too fantasy adjacent for an Assassin's Creed game. However, there are real-life animal trainers, plus the ability to tame animals is also in the franchise already. So I don't think it's too far-fetched to hope that a Druid protagonist may come out someday. I mean, imagine climbing over buildings while your trusty jaguar is following behind you. The mounts in the game can also be more useful in combat and stealth, instead of just reskinned horses. And that's really everything that I can say about this class. And note that as of writing this, I've realized that some of these mechanics may be too absurd. But I still want to see a Druid class type if possible. Last on this list is the Illusionist. Think of a magician, not a mage from Skyrim or Baldur's Gate, but magicians from real life. Think of how they set up tricks and create illusions to fool an audience. Or better yet, think of the movie Now You See Me, but instead of bank heist, it's assassinations. This would be a cool setup for the game since the protagonist will be a very smart person, someone who will be one step ahead even of the villain. For his main skill or ability, I'm thinking of a set of cards with various utilities. Some cards can act as noisemakers or wind chimes, maybe they have small metal balls attached to them. Other cards may act as throwing knives with razor metal edges. Then some other cards may be thicker and heavier, which are able to press buttons and make objects fall. For their personality, I'm thinking a bit like Jacob's easygoing approach. However, they will be more of a trickster type rather than a brawler. So when they are in a tight spot, vanishing via smokes is the go-to. Though since I'm thinking that the Illusionist is a super smart character, I do like to think that he'll always be one step ahead. And so being able to use his environment to improvise during combat and chases is a must-have. Think of how Jack Sparrow always escapes through some sort of elaborate plan that you are not sure if it's planned or made up on the spot. Then being able to use a disguise should also be a part of their arsenal. Being able to dress up as anyone can be their go-to way to go near their targets. I also think that they should have an assistant. Not a second playable character but a constant companion. Someone who can distract enemies and even set up certain machines or tools that can help during missions. And so that's it. Those are some of the stealth classes I wanna see in Assassin's Creed. Comment yours below.